And welcome back to the Eric Krown Crypto channel. Today is a very, very special day, especially for myself, as I'm joined here by Dan of Chart Guys. Dan is someone that he's like the first person that I ran into when I came over into the space back in 2016, 2017, recording his videos on YouTube. And he was the first account that actually sounded reasonable in his analysis and something that I could actually, really gel with and something that I could actually stand by. And so for me, this is an amazing day to have someone like Dan on this channel. And with that in mind, I won't spoil any more of your story. I'll hand it off to you, Mr. Dan. Please let the community know who you are, where you come from, and then we'll take it from there.
Sure. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here. So I started as a trader, I guess 2010 is when I started going down that rabbit hole. And I started with fundamentals and not knowing what I was doing. And then seeing, in the forums, this guy who's looking at charts, he's more right than everybody else. Okay, let's go down that rabbit hole. And so dove headfirst into technical analysis. And I was in college at the time, so I had some freedom to be able to really dive into it and put in a lot of time, and got familiar trading stocks. And I got really familiar with hype markets because I was interested in the cannabis space. And so it would be a 1,000% move up and then we give all the gains back. And that was
the
my
OG
preparation.
Crypto.
I learned from those lessons. Like when I was playing with $3,000, I was learning about the pump and dumps and all of that. And so when the crypto space exploded in 2017, it's very interesting because at the start of 2017, if you asked me, are you going to trade Bitcoin ever? My answer would be maybe, I don't know. And then next thing you know, second half of 2017, that was everything. And it was some of the most pure price action that I've ever seen, just because it was, price discovery and an extremely emotional market with a bunch of fresh, brand new participants who didn't know what they were doing. And so I was able to apply my 7 years at that point of trading and technical analysis and put it to the crypto space and really take advantage of that opportunity. And most importantly, lock in my profits, not give it back, not fall in love with the story. I fell in love with penny stocks, and that's a bad idea. So I didn't fall in love with the story. I knew that price detaches from fundamentals, and so that allowed me to keep gains. And that's really one of the things, in 2017, as far as crypto influencers go, everybody was making money, but not everybody kept the money. And so that helped us stand out a bit in terms of knowing when to pull out of the market a bit. So from there, I started a community, the Chart Guys. That was back with my co-founding partner in 2015. So we were a couple years into the crypto boom, and that obviously led to a big influx of interest. And from there, it's just been a great ride. My dog's opening the door behind me. It's been a great ride, building community, interacting with people like yourself, and just a lot of positivity of shared goals. We all want to learn how to trade better. We all want to be able to profit, and hopefully we want to do good things along the way. And it's just been a whirlwind of extremely positive experiences.
Dude, that is really, really amazing to hear. So there's so many things that I want to touch on just from that. And first, and maybe foremost, especially most relevant to right now, is you said that you'd already gone through that sort of emotional roller coaster from your early days trading cannabis stocks. And dude, like there's some like weird ethos with traders that you just have to get wrecked once, it seems like, and kind of go through that. You get the emotional sort of conditioning, I guess, and then you can evolve from there, hopefully, and survive the next time, man. And to me, that just I think that's really one of the reasons that actually set you apart when I first started to turn into you. One of the things also that you always used to say was, keep on doing those good things, man. I love that. Just like a nice positive message. Like what, like, why not, spreading the good stuff. So one of the things that really stood out about your analysis was that you were like heavily into trend. You were always trend first. And honestly, at that time, I'd been a professional trader for quite some time, actually. And honestly, like, I respected the trend, but I wasn't that much into it. And, really after a little bit of watching you and then doing it some more on my own, it's like now I've come to the conclusion, trend isn't just like the one, like extremely important. It might just be the only important thing, And so I'm curious, is that still your style now? And how do you kind of work that into a plan?
Yeah, it definitely is. And honestly, using that in crypto for me enforced it more as well, where Before 2017, I was using, Bollinger Bands, MA20, MA50, 100, 200. I had all these moving averages on my chart.
Right.
And then through that run, I just slowly knocked them all off. And now I got a couple EMAs and it's all price action. And then I took that from crypto back to stocks post 2017, where I'm now just much more price action. And I think a lot of it has to do with, price levels and trend. It's concrete. There's no subjectivity with trend lines and with different patterns. There's a lot of subjectivity where your bias 100%. Can creep in and that can influence things. And so, and it also helps a lot when you're watching the trends to be able to get a firm grasp on how the different timeframes overlap. And that's a big factor where you can have a bull break on the 15-minute time frame, but it's just looking for a lower high on the 4-hour. And once you're cycling through all these time frames, you then get, a bigger picture, complete picture, as opposed to maybe being too zoomed in on just certain something and missing the bigger picture. So price action is always number one. We got the indicators, I love the RSI, I love all these other things, but they are all secondary to price. Price means everything. It's the only thing that I care about. And a lot of people talk about, manipulation or whether the market is wrong. The only truth in market is the price right now. That is what it is. And that is a big takeaway for me from the 2017 run.
That's a really profound point that you just made, in the sense that you can talk about manipulation all day, but at the end of the day, man, the price in front of you, that's just what it is. And if you're fighting that, you're not operating in reality. I mean, that is just like, that's such a sign of a mature trader and everything. I fucking love that, man, because people always, I'm sure they do the same on your videos as well, but they always say like, don't you care about the manipulation? Like, it's like, I don't know, man, I can't do anything about it. And we're all, manipulators in some aspect, right? So it's just like, how do we level the playing field? You got to be looking at price. That's the great equalizer, if you will. So I also wanted to ask you about a few other things as well. So when it comes to indicators, you said that you like your RSI, it sounds like you like your moving averages as well. So how do those kind of fit into a plan for you, if really at all?
So I like exponential moving averages. I like the 12 and 26, and it fluctuates. We play around with that. Yeah. Honestly, what it was when I started trading crypto in 2017, Coinbase or GDAX at the time forced you to look at that. Like that, those are the only EMAs you could have on that screen.
Oh, that's funny.
And so I started paying attention and said, all right, well, everybody's being forced to watch this, and they keep coming into play. And then I brought it over to stocks and was like, wow, I'm getting a level up on my clarity with these EMAs and the way that I will use them. I love playing oversold bounces. So let's just say we've got a dump where, let's say we're in a daily uptrend and we get a pretty solid pullback, hourly oversold conditions. So I'm looking to make entries on an hourly oversold dump, looking for a daily higher low to try and keep that uptrend going. So one thing I'll do is, if I'm scaling into a couple positions, and that's another big level up that my trading style took, scaling in and scaling out. I used to just go one order, and then I realized,
all in or not,
can't expect to nail the tops and bottoms. Yeah. So why don't I give myself some wiggle room? Right. So if I'm scaling in a couple orders and then a bounce is starting to play out, I'll use those EMAs as a short-term target, and I'll take a partial profit. So let's just say 5 or hourly oversold, we get an hourly bounce. I know I'm just looking for an hourly lower high, and I'll take off half of my position at hourly EMA 12 resistance. More often than not, we'll initially reject and then try and work on an hourly uptrend from there. But that allows me to just have a little visual target in terms of taking some off, then becoming very comfortable in that trade and sticking a stop under that low to see if I can nail that daily higher low.
Gotcha. So basically, you're very quick to take profits. You're happy to, when the money's in your hands, close the damn hands and be happy with it, basically.
That was a change too, where in 2017, 2018, it was aggressive mode. And I was going, that's the most aggressive I've ever traded in my life. I was all in every trade. I was buying every time we hit that new all-time high, we would get follow through. So I'm all in on that new all-time high bull break. And then, 5% follow through takes them off. And so I then exceeded every goal that I could ever possibly have in terms of percentage gains from that run. And said, okay, as far as I'm concerned, I have won the game now. I've gotten to a point where I won. And so most important factor for me is I then shifted from aggressive to conservative with a mindset of priority number one, do not give any of this back. And then priority number two, add a bit to it as I go. And so that shifted a lot of my perspective.
Gotcha. Okay, very interesting. So when it comes to scaling in, scaling out, how do you do your orders in terms of like, you're obviously not entering it all in at one trade, but are you doing it over like 2, 3, 4? Is there like a rhyme or reason to kind of what you're doing? What do you think?
Generally it's 2, sometimes it's
2.
3. If it were real extreme, if we're in the depths of fear and everything's crushed on every time frame, then I'll go a little bit more aggressive. Oftentimes with my bounce trade, my aggressiveness matches the bears, which is a bit interesting. Essentially, if the more crushed we are, the more position size that I'm going to be willing to put into play. And so, yeah, it will just be generally, on any given day, it's two entries. Keep it nice and simple. Sell half. I can easily do the math in my head of what my break even is and things like that. But yeah, it was a big game changer. I generally do same position size as well. So I'm not increasing position sizes on the way down. It's nice and standard. And again, that helps with just easily being able to keep track of things for me as far as the trade is playing out. And oftentimes, if I'm not playing off of a support level, oftentimes I will be, and I'll call that a bottom fishing play. So it's a clear support level. I know where my stop's going to go with some wiggle room, of course, because that's over the years, it's getting more and more common to break and then bounce. And so if I don't have a stop level in play, my stop is based on dollar risk, always a stop on every trade. So I have to do a little bit of math and say, okay, well, I'm willing to risk this many dollars on this trade because there's this potential reward if it works out. And that's where my stop will go. And if there's no level nearby, it's just based on that dollar risk.
Gotcha. Okay. Very interesting. All right. That gives me a lot to think about. One thing that I wanted to come back and kind of touch on is you said in 2017, 2018, you basically accomplished like all of your goals. Like you overshot all of your goals in a stunning manner, which it was a stunning market for sure. After that, like how did things change for you? And like, what was the motivation after that to, I guess, keep on going or I don't know, just kind of walk me through your mindset there.
Yeah, good question. So how did things change in terms of living my life? Nothing, honestly. Okay. So at that point in time, I was living on a little community. It was a house that an entrepreneurial buddy was renting. We turned it into a little community farm and we would host, traveling musicians that would come through and we'd have these parties and it was just a great time. I was living in a shed.
It's like a commune.
It was a commune. I was living in a shed in the backyard. At times there was 12 people living in the house, sometimes 5. It was a 10 by 12 shed with a roof falling in. My two choices were I could move off the property and get good internet because I had started the chart guys at that point and I needed quiet and I needed a sleep schedule and I couldn't do that in the house that was a party house. And so I was in this shed making more than I ever thought I would ever make. And I didn't change a thing. I didn't get a new car. I didn't, I just stayed the same person and that allowed for me to keep compounding gains. If I was pulling out money and buying a new car, and moving into a new place, I would have made less money. It would have been less capital that I would have been playing with. So not changing my lifestyle with the upgrade in money was definitely a good decision in hindsight. And my trading changed because I was using 10 times the capital size than I was, a year prior. And it allowed me I then got a shorter term, I guess you would say more of a scalp trading mindset because my capital size prior to that, I was a lot more into swing trading and if this move is going to be worthwhile, I want to let it play out. But, I can remember market buying and selling Bitcoin during that volatility and seeing 10% gains in 2.5 minutes and just real quick scalping to just give me more, just lock it in, lock it in. And so that did change my trading style as well.
That's super interesting. So you basically went from doing more swing trading to more like, let's play the video game basically.
Oh yeah.
Interesting. Okay. It's because like usually people go the other way, but I'm actually very similar to you in that aspect where like the bigger my account gets, I just want to play on the lower term timeframes, man.
It's shifting back. It's a pendulum because now I'm like, all right, I want to get better at swing trading because I can't put in these hours for decades. This is not sustainable. Yeah. And so I want to get better at swing trading again so that I can have more time away from the computer. So it's an ever evolving game that we play as we progress and go through time.
Right on. Yeah. I mean, just speaking of that, progression, you said that you basically like you didn't really change anything. Like, and you as a person, from what I gather, especially when I first started tuning into you, which was like 5 years ago now, you don't really seem like you've changed as a person, like not in a bad way, obviously, but what I want to call attention to or just get your opinion on is that, especially in this last kind of market cycle that we've seen here, there's been like a new crop of YouTubers sort of styles where it seems it's more about like, show everyone what you have and let's go take the private jet and, let's go get the Ferrari or the Lambo or whatever. And you're just not into that at all.
Yeah, it's honestly, as far as the chart guys goes, that's part of our branding that wasn't really intentional. It was kind of like, I'm just being genuine. And I've been shocked at how people can perceive that. And it's been,
what do you mean by that?
Well, they can tell that I am who there's a lot of people, like you said, they're putting on a front. They're playing a part. They're playing a part.
Yes.
And
yes.
people can tell that I'm just me being me and I'm doing this trading thing. And I have been surprised that through my content, through videos, that people have been able to pick up on this. Because again, I see the same thing that you see. I see the thumbnails and I see the content that's getting 10 times the views that my educational, very helpful content is getting. And it's a bit frustrating. And but
so how do you kind of balance that then?
It's very hard, especially when you bring in someone like, okay, help us out with marketing. Well, you should do this, this, this. No, I'm not doing that.
Yeah,
that's against who I've always been. I'm not going to do that. So it's always a balance, and it's frustrating. You could have a lot of merchandise and put out these shirts. And then my first thought is, well, the cotton industry is the biggest pesticide producer. I don't want to just make a bunch of shirts that are going to end up in a landfill. So it's the marketing team, the people that have tried to help us. It's kind of like, it's this balance, and it's just sticking true to who I am, because that's what's worked this whole time, and not going to change for that. I love being under the radar. I love looking like a hippie that doesn't have any money. And I loved, hitting 7 figures and driving a $7,000 used Subaru.
Oh, and that's amazing, man.
It's part of the game for me of just, dude, I know, nobody else knows.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, actually, dude, I've kind of a similar story as well. Like when I first hit seven figures, I was still living in like a fucking it's the worst apartment ever, man. Awful, man. But there's something like really pure about that, honestly. It's really, really pure. And, look, I'm never going to be the person who says like, hey, money's bad. It's the evil thing. It's like, no, man, money, it can give you power, which you can use for good or bad. That's your decision, however. So it's really interesting to hear that, man, because I kind of struggle with some of the same things, especially in terms of marketing. I've given in a little bit, with doing thumbnails, but at the same time, I always want to mediate it with like, okay, I'm going to put my best foot forward with the content. And that's just, you kind of have to play the game a little bit. But it sounds like you're straight down the line, and that's just how it's going to be. And that's fucking awesome, man. Like, I massively respect that. That's super fucking cool.
I appreciate it. We shifted the thumbnails a bit. I had the dumb faces. We tried it out, but
it does work, which is the insane thing, man.
It's wild.
It's
insane.
Like,
if I say like and subscribe, it's a huge spike. Like, I don't want to say it every video. But
I know, dude. I know. It's like, I feel like if I have to tell someone, they probably shouldn't. It's like, what are you, a fucking like dog or something? It's just silly. I wanted to come back into a little bit more like philosophical take on this. What would you say when you first kind of got started off? What was like the biggest lesson that you learned earlier on in your career, would you say?
Always use a stop loss on every trade. That was
use a stop loss,
quick and early one where it's all the and averaging down. Well, all my biggest losses are when I don't have an exit plan and I average down. Okay, I should probably not do that.
Oh my God!
And you just gotta feel sick to your stomach enough. And as you alluded to earlier, people have to go through that. As an educator now, I tell people, rule number 1, you have to do this. This is the base of everything. You put in a stop, you have a game plan. And I see time and time again, people still just disregard that rule until they learn. And so I just have to accept, you have to feel the pain. Like, I'm trying to prevent you from feeling the pain that I felt, but I'm realizing that you have to feel it as well if it's really going to stick. And if the lesson is going to be, very, very impactful on you as a person.
Right.
And so that was a big one. Another one, let's see, biggest lessons, balance. Balance is key, because during 2017, I am putting everything, no girlfriend. This is my focus for the next 2 years, year or two. And I based my sleep schedule around it. I was waking up every 3 hours for 20 minutes to take advantage of the volatility. I forget what you call that sleep cycle. There's a name for it, but I shifted everything about my life.
Sleep, something like that.
I shifted everything about my life to capitalize on that market, but knowing this is not sustainable. So I have to balance that out eventually. And so for me, it's always outside nature, gardening, where if I'm on the screen for a bunch of time, I have to be able to just get up, and 5 minutes later, I'm completely in a different world. And that is what has preserved my sanity from putting in an insane amount of hours over the last 7 years is when I really all in full time.
Okay. So basically for you, it comes down to like, you realize, hey, this is a period of opportunity. I'm going to go balls deep into this right now. But after this, it's relaxation time. It's time to rest up and recuperate, basically. Is that kind of your style? That's very interesting, man. Yeah, I can definitely relate to that, because, when you get these special times in cryptocurrency land, which are like extra special times, I just don't know where else you can find something like that. It's so insane, man. So what sort of things do you do outside of your trading desk to kind of like regenerate yourself?
Yeah, it's gardening. I have some experience farming. So before I really got into trading, there was a period where I was still trading and still doing things, but I was also working full time on a small organic farm, and waking up at 5 a.m., working to 9 p.m.
What kind of stuff are you making, man? Like, what's on this farm? Like, what are you making?
Everything. We woke up I was out the door at 5 a.m. planting potatoes until 9 p.m.
Oh my God.
And it was just, again, unsustainable. What I did that year, you cannot do for a prolonged period of time. Right, but I learned a lot about work ethic, and that definitely transferred over into trading, where, we have to, my goal is to just outwork everybody. If I'm going to be better than everybody, I'm going to outwork. I'm going to put in more time than anybody else. And so it's farming. It's nature. It's always nature. I just go out into the woods. I did a bunch of backcountry camping, and I lived out of my car for a long time and traveled around the country. So that's always my balance.
There is something really soothing about being in like real nature, man. Like it really, I know it sounds fucking hippie. I know it sounds crazy granola, but it's really nice. It's really fucking nice, honestly, man. I moved out here to Finland years ago. And one of the things that I love about this place is that even though I'm living in Helsinki, which is like the big city here, which is not big, it's connected to like nature. As soon as you step outside of your, as soon as you go outside your door, there's a nice little forest out there for you. It honestly, I can't describe the feeling, but it's good. Whatever it is, it's good.
It's a lot that science doesn't, it's, starting to understand, but doesn't yet understand. And it makes sense. I mean, our entire history as through evolution, like we're in the soil, we are on the ground. And so
no shoes.
It's a calming, it brings us back to all of that ancient, millennia of what we have been through our society. What we're in now, this last 100 years of shoes and concrete and indoors, that's the outlier. That's the big difference. So it makes sense that, we sync up when we are more connected with the earth.
Absolutely. And I mean, and just like to take it a step further, it reminds yourself that, in order to be happy, in order to live and basically just live and be fulfilled, you really don't need that much. I mean, yeah, we're trading magic internet money over here and, and having a good time and everything, but it's like, it's almost like a joke that nature or God is playing on you. And it's like, you actually don't really need it. You just go live out here. You can make your own food. It's not a big deal. This is all just a game.
And that goes back to keeping the minimalist. I've always been a minimalist. Yeah. I was eating cold cans of soup. I wasn't even heating it up out of my car. Was not even heating it up. And
oh my God.
And when you're that much of a minimalist, it is so easy to be happy with the bare minimum. Like, wow, I can turn a knob and hot water comes out of the wall. That's
it's amazing. It's like fucking magic. I know.
Royalty. That was reserved for royalty, for the entirety of humanity. And
Dude,
so,
that's a
yeah,
crazy thing to think about.
it's easy to be happy as a minimalist for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, if you just compared your life to like any sort of Renaissance king, even the most poverty of poverty person in America is probably living better than them.
Yeah.
And at the very minimum, you got access to penicillin, so you can survive pretty damn easily. I just got like another question for you, just kind of out of the blue. Do you kind of believe, like, this is a weird one, but do you believe in Bitcoin?
I would like to believe in Bitcoin. Yes, I do. Bigger picture, I believe in Bitcoin. Absolutely.
Okay.
Am I convinced it's the way and it's the one?
Yeah.
No, I'm not convinced
I hear
about
you
that
on
with
that.
anything in life. I'm not
Interesting.
attached. I'm not emotionally attached to anything with these flashing numbers in cyberspace. So
Right.
it could be, that's basically what it boils down to. I love the story behind it and the mission. I have experience in the Occupy movement. I was traveling around the country and going to all these different Occupy encampments. And it's funny that I turned into a trader, which was basically I gave up. Like, okay, nobody else in the country cares what the bankers are doing to us. Fine, I'm going to play their game, and I'm going to get my piece of the pie and do what I want with it. And
so you're kind of like one foot in the material world and one foot in the spiritual world.
Yeah, definitely. And that's again the balance that try to maintain to stay sane through it all. But yeah, I like the story behind it. I would love to believe it, and I would love to give people that freedom. I would love to see it work out for sure. I'm not convinced it will, but it would be great if it did.
I hear you on that, man. It's something that I think about a lot as well. It's like, it all sounds great, but I don't know. It's almost like it's too good to be true sometimes as well. So it's like, you never really know where it's going with it. If you had to, so you have a trading community, you have people that you basically mentor, for maybe lack of a better term. What are some of the major things that you really focus on with that? Like, what is the big, like, what's like the big value that you want to be given to people in a community like that?
So just honestly, like, as I mentioned, trying to share all the mistakes I've learned over the last 11 years. Like, I've made every single mistake you can possibly make. And so I'm trying to help people from making those mistakes. I'm trying to speed up the learning curve. I didn't have a chat room community when I was learning. I was by myself. I was looking at some forums, but I was by myself going down Google rabbit holes. What is RSI? What is, Ichi Cloud? What is all this stuff? And so having a more centralized place, but also the other side of things, the psychological aspect. It's easy to learn technical analysis. If you're used to Western schooling and you study the book and you take the test, you can memorize, what these candlestick patterns are. And you can, technical analysis isn't that hard to learn, but applying it and the psychological influences as you apply it, that's the tricky part. And so that's a lot more abstract and a lot harder to learn. And experience plays a huge role in learning those lessons. So essentially just having a place, especially when CVID hit, I don't want to say the word because often
you can say the Rona word, man. It's okay.
But when that hit, I mean, I didn't, I was by myself a bunch, but I wasn't lonely once. We had this community that I'm interacting with every day. And yes, it's, screen names, but we do meetups and stuff. And I see people's faces and we interact, and okay, this is a real person behind that screen name. And that community of everybody having the shared goals and everybody trying to help each other has been extremely powerful. And another aspect, I benefit as I'm teaching people. I am improving drastically.
Oh, 100%, man.
I have to, someone will ask me a question and I'll have to go back and like dig in, like, okay, why did I do this? And it forces me to go more in depth and to learn about myself as a trader more. And so anybody that's learning technical analysis, if you're a couple of years in and you got the concepts down, get a friend who is brand new, teach them, and you will level up.
That's amazing, man. I've said the exact same words. It's like, people might think that they're getting value from my YouTube videos, and that's great if they are, but I'm getting a lot of value just by giving it out. It's kind of crazy how that works out. It's like a selfish altruism. It's kind of the way that I like to relate it.
Yes, last night I did an altcoin video where I asked people, okay, what altcoins do you want me to look at? And they threw out 20 plus. So last night I went through 20 of these altcoins, and at the end of it, I thought, I'm more bearish than I was before I did this. So here we are dropping over the next. With the last 10 hours, we're dropping down now.
100%.
And it helped me shift my view a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. A lot of the time, just looking at some of the shit coins, it can really illuminate the greater picture there. So you started trading Bitcoin like 2016, 2017. Is that about right?
2017, yep.
Okay. So how would you say that it's kind of changed over the years that you've been involved with it?
Correlations with the broader stock market have picked up massively. And we saw it first starting and got some hints of it. And we knew to be looking for it because the same thing happened in, the cannabis sector where we had a Canadian cannabis run back in, I forget what year, 2018, I guess at this point,
Right.
where they were doing their own thing and they uplisted and they just got on the NYSE and the NASDAQ. And then as, market makers build their positions and as things settle down a little bit, it's now a significant correlation. And the same thing happened where we have these automated trading systems and bots that are absolutely pegging the price to what we're seeing the NASDAQ and the S&P 500 do. And that's been a bit disappointing, just in the sense that I used to love the fact that I could go and focus on stocks when there was opportunity and volatility, and then it would be over in crypto. But now they're almost doing the same thing. And so in my opinion, it's less opportunity between the two because they're doing the same thing. Well, I can do one or the other. And that has been one of the most major shifts. A lot of increased liquidity. I used to be able to put my orders on the GDAX order book and see the price influenced by it. And now I'm just a tiny drop in the bucket. And it's not the same. It's a different market environment as institutional interest and as it has evolved over the last 4 years.
So what are the markets, or do you check out of the markets and trade out of the markets?
Yeah, everything. I even part of the as being an educator that gets asked a bunch of questions, 95% of the stuff that I chart, I don't ever trade because, people look at, what's natural gas doing? Okay, let me pull up natural gas. I haven't traded natural gas in 2 years, but it's just building this library of historical examples and, I've seen this play out somewhere else. And how does this act similar? So I am charting everything. As far as what I'm trading, it's mostly, stocks. I love the leveraged ETFs. I'll trade, the S&P 500 bull and bear ETFs, or Tesla's got great volatility every now and again, NVDA, all these names, gold and silver, more of a swing trade mindset at times. So always shifting around.
So you're just all over the place, man. You're just a whore.
I'm a whore. It's honestly what I try and do is, it's nice to be, I don't swear or anything on my channel. It's
right on. Okay. Man. Speak freely.
What's that?
Speak freely. It's all good.
It's honestly, I lost my train of thought now. What were we talking about?
We're talking about,
so it was,
got it.
It's being able to, honestly, I teach people who are only crypto, explore stocks a little bit, branch out to have that opportunity. If, I don't like trading this market and my trading style is not doing well in this market, you can find a market that is benefiting your trading style. There's always a different kind of market somewhere. And even, when things were extremely bearish 6 months ago, we have the uranium stocks are doing really well. And I'm just learning about uranium stocks over the last year. So the more you have, comfort, and that's really, once you get the baseline comfort of technical analysis, I could be charting dirt prices. It doesn't matter because I have comfort in that chart. I know that technical analysis. So the more opportunities you open, the doors that you open to yourself, the more you can pivot and maneuver. And I love being liquid to be able to move around to different opportunities rapidly. So that's one thing I very much value as a trader. Cash is trash and inflation and all this, but if cash is a vehicle that allows me agility, then it's extremely useful.
Right. Yes. Just out of curiosity, do you have any thoughts on Bitcoin as it is right now? 4-hour time frame, daily, weekly, just general run through?
It's struggling. So what we saw in the last 2 weeks is we saw, again, the correlation with the broader market. And we saw the broader market first start a meaningful bounce to end last week, Thursday, Friday. And Bitcoin did not participate. And everybody's saying, why are we so much weaker? And then over the weekend and on the holiday, Monday, the US holiday, Bitcoin caught up and crypto had a solid bull weekend. So honestly, I'm watching for something potentially similar to play out. If stocks are green today and have that bullish momentum and that narrative heading into the weekend, then I'm going to be watching for the same thing. Okay, do we see a little bit of a laggard move where crypto catches up again? But overall, bigger picture, it's hard to be bullish right now. I'm not the kind of person that does, price predictions looking further out. I'm always a 1 day at a time kind of guy, because why am I going to make predictions, 3 months out when I will have more information tomorrow than today? So I'm always open to that new information on a daily basis. And it's hard for me to be bullish down here until bulls prove something to me. And they're just not proving anything at this point. And so, maybe that means by the time I do get convinced that the bulls are showing up, that we're already 20% off the low. But the best example that I can give is, after the COVID dump, I was very hesitant. I was in turtle mode, as I called it, where it's just, okay, hold on to the storm, preserve my capital. And I missed that, 3,000 to 11,000 bounce. But we then formed an equilibrium and we tightened up. And I know equilibriums. And so I went real aggressive on the bull break of that equilibrium. And so while I missed, 200%, 250% off the low, I then got the, 400, 500% for the follow through. So that's a thing that a lot of traders struggle with, where, if I sell something, I have no problem rebuying it higher if the information is different to give me, a new level to play off of, or to give me more information that makes me bullish. So it's the kind of thing where I don't feel FOMO, because I will just wait for the opportunity to present itself rather than try and be nailing the bottom. And another one of my trading styles, something I just did with Ethereum over the last couple of days. Ethereum absolutely dumps, crushed hourly RSI, approaching the teens. So, all right, I'm looking for a short-term hourly bounce. So I start to scale in. I only get one fill, which was right near the bottom. We bounce a bit. I sell half. I stick my stop under the low. If that's a longer-term bottom, I nailed it. If it's not, I stop out and don't lose $1. And so I love that trading style. And that's something that I used on the monthly time frame, however many months ago, when we set the higher low in the 30s before going to 66. I had no idea if we were going to be bullish at that point when I was buying, but I positioned myself on oversold extreme bounces to be risk-free, to let the trade play out. And those monthly higher lows did form, and it was very profitable to let those swing trade play out. So oftentimes, I won't have high conviction, but I will still position myself for the possibility of solid risk and reward if it does see a longer term momentum shift.
That's amazing, man. That's total like pressure off trading, man. You can make things so much more easy on yourself just by taking a little bit of profit, and having a bit of risk-free trade. And hey, if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, you still realize some. So it's all good. And then it also sounds like, I'm just kind of reiterating thoughts, but basically you're not interested in buying like the Rona dump. You're interested in buying that next higher low is where you seem to be a lot more interested in, which I can definitely relate to that, because that's where you actually have something working in your favor. Until then, you don't really have anything resembling a reversal working for you. So I think that's just like a weird thing that I see too many people, and I've done this myself in the past as well, focus on. It's like, I need to buy the low. I need to buy the low and sell the exact top. It's like, no, you don't. You can make a living not doing that plenty fine. And for myself, I've mostly had bad times just trying to, guess the low or guess the high. It's never really worked out too well for myself. Anyways, I wanted to also ask you, so what does like a typical day look like for you in trader mode?
So I'll wake up at 6 a.m. and I'll get right to it in terms of, preparation on the morning. And another thing I do is what I call the whiteboard, where I'm going through and I'm looking at all the commodities. What's the dollar doing? I'm looking at all the major stocks and ETFs. And it's essentially a checklist. It forces me to look in on all of these different little nooks of the market. And I write up a little, few sentences on each of them. And so after that hour of preparation, I have a firm grasp of where things stand. I know, what I'm looking for as the most likely scenarios to potentially play out. And so then I'll break from that, and I'll go outside and I'll feed the birds and I'll water the garden, walk the dog, and get that mental break, and then come back to the computer for a 9 a.m. live stream. I stream 9 a.m. to 10:30 through the stock market open a few days of the week. And then I stick around for most of the trading day, midday break, lunch break, and all that. And then at the end of the day, I do my wrap up video. So again, that's just me, getting a firm, bigger picture. I find the continuity is key, where, if I take a 2-day, 3-day break, it's like I'm coming back into it like, man, what? I feel lost. It takes me a while to catch back up. So the more I can have those, check-ins of, okay, where does everything stand? The more I can feel one with the market, just in terms of, being on the same page and understanding what's going on.
Gotcha. Do you drink coffee, by the way?
I do drink coffee in the mornings. Yes.
Okay.
Big fan.
Okay.
Always iced
Gotcha.
coffee. It can be 25 degrees out. Iced coffee.
Okay. Iced coffee, huh? I've actually not heard of that. That's interesting, man. Do you feel like that helps you?
Let's see. I would say, well, if we want to go down that rabbit hole. So
please.
I say it definitely helps me. I like the routine aspect of it. I've had periods.
It's like a ritual.
Yeah. And I've had periods where I fluctuate. Honestly, it's like a motivator. I wake up and like on a weekend morning, I make videos for Chart Guys members, and I love doing it. Like I want to wake up, I want to have my coffee, and I want to make videos. Like that is something that I enjoy doing. And so it definitely is an aspect of that. It's a part of it. I've had periods where I fluctuate, where I have it more often, or I go back, cut back a little bit, or I'll do some mushroom blends or dilute it or whatever. But it's always a fairly significant part. In terms of things that have helped me most with trading, microdosing psilocybin, hands down.
Really?
Absolute. Oh yeah. It's in terms of starting the Chart Guys and a successful business in addition to trading. I can remember laying in my tent, camping out, and just my mind racing. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And then just creating the guideline and the checklist of motivation. I'm going to do all these things, and this is going to be the result of those things. And then just banging it out and having that come to fruition. And it's go ahead.
So basically you're kind of saying that microdosing it kind of gave you like a mental clarity, if you will. Is that right?
Absolutely. Emotional control, zooming out to the bigger picture, taking a solid loss and being able to think about the universe and how little this matters. My numbers are red. Like, no, like zoom out and think about the universe and this life and the mountains around you that have been around for millions of years and how insignificant this tiny speck of time is. And it just really helps with perspective on all of this to be able to emotionally deal with fluctuations in capital and all this. It just really highlights the game that this all is. It's all just a game that we made up as humans. And in 500 years, they're going to look back and laugh that the economy was based on flashing numbers or whatever. It's going to be like us looking back at the people that traded rocks in these prehistoric times and how they had value. It's been a big benefit for me in terms of balance. Again, going back to the balance and remaining balanced in this digital world, nature and microdosing has been very significant for me.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So it's basically, it sounds like it kind of gave you an emotional maturity, if you will.
Definitely.
Why micro instead of macro dosing?
Some macro every now and again. Back in the college exploration days, first becoming familiarized with this, chemical compound or natural compound. And then from there saying, okay, well, how can I incorporate this into a productive flow? And so that's where the micro then came. And, cannabis as well, definitely have always been along the way, utilizing cannabis, not necessarily while trading. Again, I keep, if I'm in the zone, I'm not, mixing and matching things here.
I hear you on that.
Away from the screen time. That's where I get the balance.
That's like regeneration time.
Right. And then I come back refreshed and allows me to be more analytical in my approach.
Right. Yeah. I don't know about you, but I've definitely tried trading a few times high, and it's just like my risk appetite goes to zero.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not taking this one. It's too risky.
And I used to be a poker player, a Texas Hold'em.
I
played online for a while. And, I can remember back like freshman year of college where I, came home drunk and played poker. And then I wake up and I don't remember losing 20% of my account. Like, okay, so that's a lesson. Like, I'm not going to do that with stocks. So again, learning along the way and making sure that every mistake we make, we do not repeat. We're going to make all the mistakes, and we're going to consistently make mistakes, even the ones that I've learned from. The key is putting as much time in between those mistakes as possible.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's actually a really good point, man. Like, that's a really comforting sort of truth. It's like, these things, they don't really go away. You just kind of learn how to manage them a little bit better each and every time. And
Exactly.
that's really all that you can do, you know?
And so, you know, someone will look at me like, how do you not feel FOMO? I feel FOMO. I just
Yes,
recognize it.
yes.
I observe my FOMO and I don't act on it.
Right. Yes, exactly. And that's something that I feel like I can say I've gained from those sort of psychedelics as well. They've kind of given me a better perspective in that route. And I understand that people who might be listening to this who have no experience with that, they're going to be like, "What the fuck are they talking about right now?" But you know, look into it. You don't have to do it yourself. But these things have been shown to have some significant value, actually, not just with things that we're talking about, but even with like addictions and whatnot.
Oh yeah, just wait.
It's truly,
The next
yeah.
decade, the floodgates are going to open up.
Oh yeah,
Science is going to catch up. We're going to see
it's already
psychedelics.
happening, man.
Oh yeah, decriminalized. Eventually, they'll be medicinal and they'll be supplied for these things. Honestly, for me, when I say microdose, it's a small enough amount where I will feel it, but it's comparable to having 1 or 2 beers. It's this little bit of a buzz.
Gotcha.
I'm
Okay.
completely in control of everything. You know, I could talk to a cop being microdosed
Yeah.
very easily, and he would have no idea. So
Gotcha.
it's not this.
So you're
you know,
still there. You're still conscious.
Oh yeah,
It's not like you're
I'm
blasted
in
off into the
control.
fifth universe.
You know, anytime that I'll overstep my bounds a little bit and I start to lose that control, it's you know, my ego will be like, oh, you're losing that control, and that's its whole, you know, own little journey. But I like to be in control for sure, and you can experience these things while being fully in control.
Interesting. Okay, that's not something that I've really experimented too much with myself, but definitely something I'll have to look into, man. It's I didn't really put 2 and 2 together in that regard. Thanks, man. That's actually really. I'm glad that we had this conversation. Cool. So I'm actually. I don't know about you, but I am starting to run a little bit lower on time. I know that traditional markets are opening up about. Well, actually, they already opened up, so you probably want to get back to work as well. I don't want to take any more of your time than is necessary, but I've really appreciated this talk, man. I think we should honestly do this again at some point. This was really fucking cool, man. It was really cool for me to have you on this channel and to meet you and basically to like kind of come full circle in a way. And I just want to say a massive thank you for myself and the community for joining in on here. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing all of your wisdom that you've kind of earned and learned over the time, because it really sounds like you're an open book in that regard, which is amazing. And just a massive thank you, Mr. Down.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me, and I would be happy to come back anytime. I love these more informal, you know, because there's so many times where I'm in the chart and it's very regimented, but this more free flow is definitely enjoyable.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. All righty, brother. Well, with that said, thanks for joining on in to this nice little podcast. We'll be coming back soon. And with that said, take care.